What if I told you that the story of Noah's Ark wasn't just a tale to scare us into being good kids, but a real event based on an actual disaster? Yeah, I'm talking about a flood so massive it wiped out almost everything. Stick around and I'll tell you why this biblical flood might have actually happened. We've all heard the story of Noah's Ark, right? Animals 2 by 2, a giant boat, and a flood that covers the entire earth. But here's the thing. Was it just a myth? Or did something like this actually happen? And more importantly, if it did, why did it happen? Today we're going to dive deep into the theories behind the infamous flood story and what could have caused such a massive disaster. Spoiler alert, it's not as simple as just saying God was mad at everyone. All right, let's set the stage. Noah's chilling in his ancient world, doing whatever it is people did thousands of years ago when suddenly, bam, the world is going to end in a flood. But the real question is, why would an all-powerful being choose flooding as the method for cleaning up Earth? And more curiously, is there any evidence that supports this whole global flood thing happening in the first place? For centuries, historians, theologians, and scientists have scratched their heads over this. On one hand, we've got an ancient text saying, yep, the world got flooded. On the other, we've got scientists saying, the world probably didn't get completely covered in water. So, what gives? Why does the story of a flood appear not just in the Bible, but in so many other cultures? Let's get into the theories. And oh boy, there are some wild ones. First up, the literal interpretation. There's a group of people who believe the story of Noah's Ark is 100% fact. Like, it all happened exactly as described, from Noah building a massive boat with his bare hands, to every single animal hopping on board like it was some prehistoric cruise ship. But how do we explain that scientifically? Well, some folks point to what's called the Black Sea Deluge theory. Back around 7,000 years ago, there was a major flooding event when the Mediterranean Sea broke through into the Black Sea, causing catastrophic flooding across the region. Picture a massive wall of water suddenly rushing into your backyard, except your backyard is now thousands of square miles of farmland. Some scholars believe this regional flood may have been the inspiration for the Noah's Ark story. So, while it wasn't a global flood, it might have felt like the end of the world for those living in the area. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about the Epic of Gilgamesh. This ancient Sumerian tale, which predates the Bible by a good chunk of time, tells a story that's eerily similar to Noah's Ark. A guy named Utnapishtim is warned by a god about a coming flood. He builds a boat and loads it up with animals. Sound familiar? Many scholars think this story, along with other flood myths from around the world, might have influenced the Noah story. But why would so many cultures across the world have similar flood stories? Here's where it gets interesting. Some scientists suggest that there may have been a series of massive regional floods during ancient times, and these events got passed down through oral traditions, eventually morphing into the epic tales we know today. Now, let's zoom out for a moment and get a bit weird. What if the flood wasn't just a natural disaster, but some kind of cosmic reset button? Some fringe theories propose that Noah's flood wasn't just about water, but could have been the result of a celestial event. A comet or asteroid strike, for instance, could have triggered massive tsunamis and climate change, making it feel like the entire Earth was underwater. I mean, what's scarier than a giant rock from space causing chaos on Earth? And let's not forget about the polar ice caps. Some theories suggest that rapid melting of the ice caps at the end of the last ice age could have caused sea levels to rise dramatically, resulting in large-scale flooding. Imagine Noah standing there, looking at the melting glaciers like, uh-oh, better get building. But what about the moral side of things? The Bible says the flood was a divine punishment for humanity's wickedness. Is there a deeper symbolic meaning here? Some historians argue that the flood story is more about moral renewal, wiping out corruption and starting fresh. Maybe the flood wasn't just water, but a metaphor for wiping the slate clean. It's the ultimate new year, new me, but on a global scale. Now, if we're talking symbolic floods, we've got to mention climate change. No, I'm not saying Noah was dealing with modern-day global warming, but throughout history, there have been massive shifts in climate that affected how people lived. Could it be that the Ark story is a warning, not just about moral failure, but about failing to respect the Earth? Some modern interpretations spin it this way: a tale of ecological disaster and what happens when humans mess with the natural balance of things. All right, let's get to the climax of this mystery. So, was the flood real or just a big metaphor? Well, the truth is, it's probably a bit of both. There's plenty of geological evidence to suggest that major floods happened in ancient times, and they were devastating enough to inspire the legends we hear today. But the global, all-encompassing, everything's underwater scenario? Not likely. But here's the kicker. Whether the flood was real or not, the fact that it has resonated across cultures and centuries tells us something about human nature. We fear destruction, but we also believe in the possibility of starting over. The flood, in many ways, is a story about hope. It's not just about the end of the world, but about survival, resilience, and the chance to rebuild. So, why did the Noah's Ark event happen? Maybe it was inspired by real floods. Maybe it was a symbolic warning about morality and the environment. Or maybe it was a combination of both. But one thing's for sure. The story of Noah's Ark has endured because it taps into something deeply human: our fear of losing everything and our hope for a new beginning. If you want to dive into more mysterious events from history, make sure to hit that subscribe button, or check out the next video right here. See you soon.